one more time. Kia ora tātou, I whānau mai au e te tau o te awa o Tāmaki Makaurau. I raru I te maru o te maunga kia kia. He uri ahau no ko te mana, no airangi, kei te noho au, kei Paeroa, ko Claire Bradley toko ingoa. My name is Claire Bradley and I'm the Project Director of Rere Revitalise is a collaborative project inspired by Te Taiao and making on-farm change. Revitalise comes from a whakatauki in Hauraki, ki moihau ki te aroha. From moihau to te aroha, the mountains that mark the boundaries of the Hauraki people where our whānau live and work. Revitalise talks about the flows from mountains to sea, but also from seas to mountains and everything in between. Te aroha is pictured here in this slide, showing the on-farm environment that we are working in. Revitalise was called the established project out of these three because it is powered by Agri, which is a multi-generational whānau-owned business working in the world of seaweed. We bring with us almost 30 years of working in te ao Māori, environmental stewardship, and productive landscapes of land and of our oceans. However, Revitalise has stood up on its own. It is its own personality, powered by the knowledge, the mātauranga tuku iho, the knowledge that's been handed down. It is intended to be much larger than what we are today. Not only has it had to stand up as its own entity, its own branding, its own community, its own people, its own ways of working, and this tohu represents the weaving of knowledge from mātauranga Māori, science, and our farmers' experiential knowledge. It represents weaving of our people, of our landscapes, our mountains, and our sea to bind together with the Māori to go together as one. For us, Te Taiao as a basis of change is really what underpins the work that we're doing. If farmers start with connecting to soil, we kind of use soil as our gateway drug into Te Taiao. If they start to build their relationships with soil, respect the mana, understand and connect to the Māori of soil, they start to build relationships. Then if they start to draw on knowledge from various sources, mātauranga, science, and respecting their own observational skills, we then start to see behaviour change. And that's not really easy at times, right? So everyone's talking about we need to do this, we need to help the environment. Most people won't eat to save their lives, yet to save the environment, right? Behaviour change is not easy. So what our job inside Revitalise is to measure what are the effects of these behaviour and management changes on their farm system, their productivity, their profitability, their well-being, that of themselves and their whānau and their community, and also of our soils. Ko au te whenua, ko te whenua ko au. Although we've recently been talking about I am my farm and my farm is me, am I a reflection of my farm? To do this work, we chose 10 farms, 5 that are Māori-owned, 5 that are non-Māori-owned by design. That's for us to build understanding. It's for us to build connection and build bridges and touch points in our knowledge. These farms have a diverse range of ownership. Some of them are small family-owned and run farms, other are big corporate farms. A couple are iwi trust farms, over 3,000 hectares of farm ownership into this project. For this question around I am the land and the land is me, this also reflects when we're looking at putting that te riti or waitangi at the centre. We look at not only our protection, our partnership and our participation with each other, but also with the land. How do we protect our land? How do we participate and partner with our land and our soils? And for me, this is one of our measures of success. We held workshops, over 500 attendees around the motu, loyal to soil, we called them. And one of the mana whenua wrote to me and said, it's not every day that I get to sit in a room full of farmers and not feel tension. So what does success look like when we're talking about our farmed landscapes, our future generations, and expanding our broader measures of success? We start off with Northia Tātou. Where are we from? What is the whakapapa of our landscapes, our soils? What's our fertiliser history? What's our financial history, our 3-year averages of our performance? And who we are as people, the knowledge, the struggles, the trauma, the celebrations that we all bring with us together into this project. And many of you, if you're working in the farm systems at the moment, will understand that there's a lot of trepidation out there in our rural communities. This is around the future of farming. Where's the hope that they may see? And we see right down to the negative space of, actually, I don't see a future in farming. And all the way through to this hopeful but tinged with frustration. This is why I'm doing this trial. I want to be better. I've got uncertainty about the big changes that are coming. And then once we know where our farmers are at, and we build their connection with soil through workshops, through wānanga, farmers start to identify, how do I know if my soil is good and healthy? And first of all, we need to find out if those two things are the same. Is good the same as healthy? So there's a lot of social science that's gone in behind this project. So these are the things that farmers have identified that they see as good and healthy soils. It's not just about the physical elements, it's about the chemical composition, the biology, and some of those tangible feelings, the smell, the sight of our soil. And then our farmers got together and started talking about some of the practices that they can do on farm that might respect soil, balancing their stock with their land, using vertical grazing, so tree planting, knowing soil, asking soil what it needs, karakia for our soils, for our animals, for our landscapes, reducing synthetic chemistry, soil health checks, because when people and communities lead the research, then they're more likely to engage with it and act upon their own research. So our farmers wanted to understand maramataka. They wanted to see what would happen if I said to my contractor, can you come when I'm ready, which is dictated by the lunar cycle, rather than when it fits into your farming cycle? And then what are the effects of that in terms of germination rates, in terms of crop health? Again, when people lead their own research, they're more likely to engage with it. So these are some of the practice changes that we've seen in 18 months. And I want to stress that 18 months. 2 years is a very, very short time for research, especially when we're talking about soils. But what we are changing is behaviours and mindsets and measuring those outcomes. So all of their farms are starting to understand their soil tests better and not just buy what the local fertiliser salesman told them to buy. 9 of the 10 farms have incorporated diverse pasture swards and are learning how to graze them, how to manage them quite differently than a ryegrass clover biculture. 3 of the farms are already using maramataka into their farm system, and 5 more are keen to start implementing this. And we have another workshop coming up next week. 2 of the farms already know their number. So what does that mean? That means they're measuring their greenhouse gas emissions. And this quote here from one of our farms is really important and talks to that science-informed, community and people-led, but science-informed. So people are starting to make change, and science is helping them to understand some of the why. And when people can articulate what they see, then they can start to understand it. So 100% of our farms are more connected to their whenua. What does that mean? That's a pretty big statement. So these farms are out there digging holes in their soil, smelling their soil, talking to their neighbours, using maramataka diaries. 3 of the farms have planted trees to increase the shelter for their animals, and thinking about that interconnected solutions. If I start with respecting the health of my soil, I start to think about the crops, the trees, the shelter, what I'm growing, how I'm treating my animals. And a 0% drop-off. When we first started out 18 months ago, we thought maybe 30% of the farms might not be continuing at the 2-year mark. You know, we've still got 6 months, so let's not, count all our chickens before they hatch. However, we have had one of the toughest years when it comes to weather in the Wakatoa and Bay of Plenty in this season. One farmer, 8 times his farm has been underwater. That farmer turning up to on-farm days, to workshops, and continuing to be engaged in this research project is nothing short of near a miracle. All of those 10 farms do not want this project to end. They want to, because 2 years, like I said, is a very small amount of time to build trends and data that we can rely on. We need to be looking at 5 years. 84 to 3,200 hectares. That's on a single farm. Some of these farms have come on board because, for example, Taiao Group Holdings were really thinking about their awa running through their land that they wanted to build health about. Another farm started off in 84 hectares, have a little tutu around, play with some things. They're in, boots and all, 3,200 hectares, changing the way they farm to respect the health of the soil first. And in terms of that Western science, Lincoln University have been running a whole lot of trials for us, looking at effects of biostimulants, looking at the effect of what does the products that we eat grown in this way, how does that affect our health? So in terms of our value chains and our markets, because let's face it, we are in farming because it provides us with economic opportunity. These are businesses that we are working with. These are people's livelihoods that depend on the health of their land. So we're working with the MPI Markets Insights team and broadening their identification around that word regenerative. Because I hear so often, oh, it's not defined, so I can't believe it, right? We all know what sustainable is. It means not to ruin something. But if we want to be regenerative, we need to think not only about our landscape, but our relationships. Product attribute research through ag research, are consumers willing to pay more for products that are grown in a way that respects the health of our land and of our people? And market access risk. Actually, just came back from Ireland and looking at the big changes in the EU. Is there a risk for New Zealand farmers that we won't have market access because of the way that we are farming? People in place, a sense of place, of belonging and well-being. One of our farms is 5th generation Hauraki Plains farmer. They're in their 80s. So when we go to them and talk to them about mana and mauri and te Taiao, it's a pretty big leap in their knowledge set. We had a lot of challenges, and we were asked, did you choose the wrong farmers to come on this project? And we wondered at times, did we choose the wrong farmers to come on this project? But actually, if we wanted 10 farms who were organic, regenerative, and just kind of dance around and actually not make any change, we could have done that. But if we can shift the dial with people, we had a beautiful experience where Edina took on her friend Courtney to provide miri to this whānau. And when we look at people's health and well-being as a perspective, man, that change in them has been incredible. We've used these 11 insights constantly to not only look at the opportunities, but also tools to help us solve the challenges that we face. And some of those challenges are beyond our control. The weather, timeframes, and that diversity of knowledge for shared outcomes. It's really easy to say, we're going to weave mātauranga Māori, Western science, and farmer knowledge together. That's a really great statement. But weaving creates tension. We cannot build a kete without the tension to hold the strands together. And so when we lean into that tension and we learn from those tensions, then together we make a better whole. It hasn't been easy. I'm going to tell you that right now. So if anyone tells you how easy it is to weave knowledge together, I don't believe them. For us, we wanted to establish this mana and mauri of soil framework. And we learned really quickly that trying to put te ao Māori into a box was not the right way to go. So we had to pull back. We had to assess farms where they were in their knowledge and start there. Again, when we look at Taiao Manawa order, purpose-led change, to change is hard. So when we're dealing with large entities with multi-decision-making frameworks, from trust boards to farm advisors to regional staff, we need to work with all of those different layers to create the changes that we want to see. This is an example of on-farm workshops happening with workers in a big trust, and this is the trust that also has gone that 84 hectares to 3,200. We've had staff changes, we've had trust board changes, we've had ownership changes, and again, 0% drop-off because people relate to soil. So what are the opportunities to revitalise te Taiao? As I said, we're not precious of Rere Kuta, Rere Kitai. Well, we are, we're really precious. But it is a life of its own. People connect to it as a way of relating to soil, to weaving knowledge, and to changing their behaviours and farm practices. Being able to minimise repetition. One of the incredible benefits of being in this kaupapa has been able to lean in on Waiwanaka and Te Kahuero, listen to their learnings, seek to understand, and look at where we can share our resources. I see so many things that are just funded repetitionally. We need to reach out and say, what can we learn? How can we amplify what you are doing? Not how can we recreate what you are doing. And those who hold the funding streams, that's part of their, or your, if you're in the room, that's part of your responsibility, right? You can see who you're funding, so it's your job to weave those people together. International connections. These are not just Aotearoa problems. This is global problems that we are dealing with. And there are others doing incredible things, but we also have a place-based approach that is uniquely Aotearoa. So, get in touch. Like I said, it's not about everyone out there doing it on their own. It's about building our networks, inspiring others, learning from each other. And so if you are interested, please get in touch. And lastly, thank you. This is our PO leads who look after Rere Kuta, Rere Kitai. Each of the POs have a whānau advisory system around them to support them. And our farmers, our 10 farmers who are brave, who are on this journey, who are committed to revitalising te Taiao. And lastly, to our Land and Water for providing the opportunity for us to research in this really unique and impactful way. So thank you so much for all the love and support.